Today we're just going to introduce you to a few tools on Photoshop. So first thing we do is open up our project, and over here on the layers we have this padlock, so I'm going to double click on that to unlock that layer. So if you double click on it, usually a dialog box comes up, you just press OK and then that'll go away. In Photoshop you're going to be using different layers to work on, so you want to make sure you're selecting the layer that you're working on. I've only got one layer currently. So once I've got this layer, I'm going to go over to my marquee tool here, click on that, and across the top here you'll see feather. Make sure this is set to 0 for what we're trying to do. So rectangle marquee tool selected. I'm just going to click and drag, and I'm going to go just across his eyes, and I've made a selection. Now what I can do here is I can copy, Control C for copy, and then the Control button X for cut, and then his eyes have gone away. Now it's checkerboard because my background is transparent. Yours might be white, not a big deal just yet. So I've cut this out of this actual layer here, so what I need to do now is create another layer. Go down by the trash can. Next to the trash can is create a layer, and basically it looks like a square with a plus on it, so click on that once. The layer 1 opens above the original layer. You want to be on that layer. So if you click on here, it's going to go back to the original layer. We want to go to the top layer. So now I'm going to use Control V for paste and go to my move tool up here in the top left. And now I'll be able to move this back into place if I want to, wherever I want to move it to. So I'm going to move it back into place here. And if you use the little arrow keys on your keyboard, you can actually do some fine tuning. So I put it back into place, and I'm just going to tab over just to distort his face a little bit. So I'm just going to move it over using the arrow keys. Once I feel like, okay, that's fun, that's good enough, just going to click on the move tool, click the background to deselect. So now I have a section cut out on 2 layers. Go to your magnifying glass, which is down at the bottom here. Click on the magnifying glass. If you hover over your image and you right click, you can go to fit screen and it'll enlarge, or you can go 100%, okay, and that's the actual size of this image, and then go down to fit image again, so we want to be able to see what we're doing. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to go to the layer that has the eyes. Now each layer has this little eye next to it. If I click on that, it turns the layer off. So I can go to the bottom one here and turn that off, and it'll disappear. So sometimes you'll want to turn your layers off to make it easier to work. But now we want to make sure we're on layer 1 that has the eyes, and click that off and on just to check. So I'm on that layer, and now I'm going to go down to here where it says FX. You got the trash can, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's the 6th one in, so it's the little FX for FX. Click on that and click on drop shadow. Dialog box will come up. Make sure your dialog box is to the side so you can see what you're doing. Now currently I have now just put a drop shadow on here. If I turn this little checker off, you'll see that there's no drop shadow and a drop shadow. This angle here will change the angle of your shadow, so it's going to change where the light source would be to dictate where the shadow is going to go. So that is your angle. This is your distance, how far away from the object you want it to be. Okay, you want to try and keep it subtle. And then this would be the spread. Okay, so that makes it really sharp or not so sharp. And then this is the size, how much fuzziness you have versus how clear it is. So we want to kind of make it fuzzy because it's a little bit further away from the surface, so it makes it look like it's elevated. Once you've done that, just click OK, and now you have a drop shadow. Every time this is selected, you're not going to be able to do anything else. So go to your move tool and then just click on there, click on the background, it's gone away. Now in your layer palette, you'll notice that now you have this effects layer there. Again, I can turn that on and off if I want to. Okay, but there's the layer for the effects, and there's the drop shadow. If I double click on the layers, it'll open up that dialog box again. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to click on bevel and emboss. If I click on bevel and emboss, it looks like it's giving it chiseled edges, like a gold bar, I suppose. So right now what I want to do is double click on this so I can get all my properties up. So sometimes when you're on these different dialog boxes, you're using that for this, but when you click on something else, it doesn't always change. So sometimes you have to double click to get the proper properties up. So up here you got these decisions. It's an inner bevel, outer bevel, various options, hard chisel, soft chisel, smooth chisel, depends on what your personal preference is. So you choose one of those, and then this is the depth of the chisel. Okay, so you can see it's changing the depth of it, and then you got size variations, so that's really obvious. So you can just play around with it till you get the effect that you want. So once you've got that done, just click OK. And now we have an iron bar, like a bar taken out of the piece, so it looks like this with a drop shadow and an emboss. A bevel. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to my original layer that has the player's face on it. I'm going to go back to the marquee tool, and I'm just going to cut another piece out. And it's up to you what parts you're going to cut out. We're just experimenting here just to show you the concepts. So let's say I want to select the lips, Control C for copy, Control X for cut. And now we have to make another layer. That's again next to the trash can. And you got to take this, well, don't have to, but we're going to put this up to the top. So it's the top layer. Remember, Photoshop works in layers. Make sure you're on that new layer, and then Control V for paste. And it pastes it in. Go back to your move tool, top left here, and then move that back into position. Once that's back into position, again, you can use your arrow keys to fine-tune it. Again, I'm just going to tab this one over. You can go the same direction. You can go a little bit further. It's up to you. We're just experimenting with these different tools today. So let's say that's suitable for what I need. Click on the arrow tool to deselect it. Now, what I'm going to do, just move that up one tab. There you go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the same shadow and bevel on this one, but I don't have to go through the whole process. What I need to do here is go back to the effects on my other layer, right click, and then you'll see copy layer styles. What that's going to do is going to copy all the layer styles that you've put onto that one layer. So copy that layer, then go to the next layer that doesn't have the effects on it, and then right click. When you right click, you're going to see paste layer style. If you click on paste layer style, it's going to bring in those styles that you had on the other layer. So there you go. Now you don't have to keep going through all these different buttons. You can just copy and paste those settings. So that's how you basically put the bars in with the bevel and the shadows. We'll be using that a lot this semester. Other things we can do here is we're going to put a go back down to your layer that has the player on it, and we're going to put a mask on it. So we're going to go trash can, 2, 3, 4th one in, 5th one in. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a little square with a circle, and you're going to click on that. That is your layer mask, and you'll notice there's a white frame gone next to your picture. So you want to click on that. That is your actual mask. Okay. Now from here, what you're going to do is come over to your gradient tool, and if you notice, these tools have little triangles in the bottom right hand corner. If you click and hold, you'll see other tools underneath that one. So most of these have other tools underneath. So if you want to find something else, there's all those tools hidden underneath all these different tools that you can use. So there's my gradient tool. I click on there. There's my paint bucket. I want the gradient tool for now. Now, if you don't see that there, these 3 buttons, if you click on that, it'll give you the option to go in and edit your toolbar, okay? And then you can pull up the different tools that you need. So if you don't see a tool, such as your gradient tool or paint bucket, go to these 3 dots, click on it, find it, and then you can go from there. So what I want to do next is I've clicked on my gradient tool. If I look up here, I now have a gradient. Next to this gradient is a little arrow. If I click on there, you'll see basics. So if yours is not showing this black and checkerboard, okay, click on basics, click on the little arrow to the left, and then select it from there. Now, sometimes people have changed the settings, so if that's the case and you do not see the black and checkered one, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go over to here, next to this little gradient, this little arrow here, go over to this little cog, which is your settings, click on that, and then just go down to reset all tools, and hopefully that will put it back to the default where you can use it. So mine's already set up, ready to go. As long as I'm on this layer, on this white mask, I should be able to put it on the bottom here and pull up, and it disappears on the bottom. So that's a mask, okay? That's a gradient mask. Now up here, and later on we'll look at the gradients later on in the course, but this is a linear and this is a radial, and you've got various other types of gradients. So we want to use the linear. Now the reason mine has gone into this checkerboard, which is transparent, it means I don't have a background color. And if you notice, when we cut out here, it's also left a hole. So the way we fix that is, again, go down next to the trash can. We're going to click on a new layer, and this new layer, and you can label these. So if you double click, you can say background, so you don't, when you're working sometimes with all this, you get a lot of layers and it's hard to know which layer you're working on. So sometimes it's easier just to label them. Now the background layer is on the very, very top. So I want to move this all the way to the base. So once it's underneath everything, that's the very last layer underneath. So now I can go to my paint bucket. But before I do that, I want to select this gray background. So on this eyedropper tool here, okay, eyedropper, click on your background, and you'll notice down here has changed. Before it was black and white, but if I click on any part of the object, it will pick up that color out of the picture. So if I wanted the teal, I could pick on the teal, but in this case I want the background, which is gray. So now once I've got my gray background, providing I'm on the background layer, I can now go and find my paint bucket, which is hiding underneath the gradient tool. Once I got my paint bucket, I can just click anywhere because I'm working on that one layer. So now it's filled the background, and all this has appeared to gone. Now all it is I've got a gray background underneath all these layers. So basically I've just filled one of the sheets of paper or layers with gray. Again, I could have done it with black, but I wanted to do it with the background so it looks like there's no holes in my work. So just turn these eyes back on so you can see what we're doing. And now I have a gradient that goes up into gray and disappears. So we've done bevel and edge, we've done shadows, drop shadows, and we've done masks today. Now, in order to save this, we want to make sure we've got the right file size. So this is important. We're going to go to image, image size. Now this is a 240 resolution. This is a 27 megabyte picture. That's way too big for what we're using. So what I'm going to do is come down here and type in 72. 72 resolution's plenty for us to see on the screen. So from here, it's dropped from 27 to 2.4. Okay, click OK. Once you click OK, it'll save it. Computer's working slow here. And then once that's saved, it looks small, but when I click on the magnifying glass, right click, go 100%, that's the actual size. If I use fit on screen, it'll center it for me. Finally, go to File, you go to Export, export as quick PNG, and then you can save it with your name, but make sure you're saving it in your not your documents, but your downloads. And then you can put a name on it, save it, you're good to go. All right, that's pretty much it.